Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT series live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me in the commentary box today is Daniel Lee with Scott Newton operating the cameras. We're here for round 8 of this season 11. We're in for a 90 minutes enduro today. Daniel, we are here at Mid-Ohio. It's not the most modern circuit, it's a proper old school track this. It's a little bit of a strange place as well to have one of these endurance meetings, but I think it should be a lot of fun. A circuit that I think the Jazz are really going to warm to.
Yeah, definitely. And first off, good evening to you, Sam. Good evening to all the viewers tuning in. Mate, I think realistically you've hit the nail on the head here. It's a fantastic circuit, whether it's in GTs, Indy cars, open wheelers of any description, really. It provides a whole different set of challenges from what the guys faced last week out at Silverstone. But really interested to see how they go in a 90-minute enduro. I mean, the circuit has some very tight technical sections, especially through the mid portion of the lap. Couple of high-speed sections where the guys can really stretch the legs in these cars. But as we said, 90 minutes strategy is going to be ever important, and it's really opened the door for anyone now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very much different skills today. Usually the strategy isn't too important. Going to be a bit more important today, of course. There is the threat of safety cars, which Jazz have to take back to the pits. Then we will call the safety car out. And yeah, that's certainly something that the Jazz are going to have to be worried about. Also, I believe 2 pit stops we could potentially expect today. So we are currently in the qualifying session, or apologies, the practice session. In fact, already we are advancing to the race. It will be a rolling start, and we should get pretty much the entire formation lap complete. In fact, no, it's actually quite a short formation lap, isn't it, around this circuit, so we better make a move on. It is Craig Edwards then on pole position. We had pre-qualifying. Edwards set the fast time. He's on pole position, of course, the race winner last week out at Silverstone. The man who finished in second place on that day, Anthony Winkelmann, starts alongside him. He's been in great form recently. Kane Ryder starts in third. Top of the pro drivers is Nathan Huppert's. All the ones in the purple are the elites. Luke Pink is top of the amateur drivers there in 5th place. And it's Danny Davison, Timothy Feeman, Braden Nash, Josh Thomas, Trent Thomas, Sean Stevens, Aidan Luthwaite, Jordan Carlis, Julian Clean Boosing, Adam Gardner, Warren Pickering, Harrison Sellers, Martin Crisp, Adrian Block, Lee Vandenberg, Billy Fletcher, Darren Lobb, Luke Sutton, Tom Hagen, William Mitchell, Richard Hunter, Mitchell Bales, Aaron Specchio, watch out for him, Martin Salvati, Vaughan Ryder, Blake Delaney, Pat Galley, and Matthew Barron as the drivers already start moving our way. Once again, no rookie drivers in this split. Quite a small split as well today, a bit like what we saw at Lima, which is really good because lapping shouldn't make too much of impact, and everyone on this grid are very competitive. So here we are then to begin this 90-minute race. Craig Edwards from the pole position, and we are away racing at Mid-Ohio. Any opportunity for Winkelmann to get past into turn 1? Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case as we rattle through the first corner. Is there going to be any changes in the top 14 places? Not at the moment from what I can see, as Edwards still having to defend going into turn 2, just about holding that inside line. Nice work from him right there, but he's being kept very honest. Now Kane Ryder might be the one who's accelerating out on the outside of the driver in second place, and Ryder actually moving up a position, getting the inside, apologies, into turn 4, and should just about have that line covered. Just behind as well, Nathan Huppert's trying to gain a place, but he's had to stay in 4th, so not the start that Winkelmann wanted whatsoever.
No, not the best start for him there. He'll be able to get back underway. Further down the order, quite a few incidents going on. We just saw Adrian Vlock returning to the circuit. Jordan Cullis off in the weeds in the forward at the end of turn 4 there, and that's going to drop him right to the back of the field. Looks like another car down off the circuit as well, as we'll duck back and just check out the little replay action to see what happened. And as you can see, diving down the inside, just gets the rear end tagged by one of the Fusion Sim Racing BMWs there. And then behind we see Vlock and one of the other Porsches getting involved as well.
Yep, so a few drivers spinning down right there. So yeah, Cullis down 20 places, Bales down 5 places. Huppert's has come into the pit. Huppert's, he was in 4th place. Wonder what that could be an issue with, as Winkelmann's going to try to get back second place. This is a big move, overtaking his Chicky around this place, and straight away Winkelmann after that mistake coming out of this corner on the opening lap, he's got back up into second place. That could be very important, back past Kane Ryder. Luke Pink moves up into fourth place then. But what on earth could have happened to Nathan Huppert's there?
Well, the guys do have to make 2 stops tonight, so probably an early run down the lane. Potentially, I don't believe it would have been any form of contact, so he's getting one of his 2 mandatory stops by the looks out of the way, which is probably not a bad idea. It will give him a huge amount of free track room when he returns to the circuit. And as we watch the drivers now currently flowing through the back portion.
That is an issue through the keyhole, and going back onto the track, there is Sean Stevens. He was in about 12th place. I think he collided with Clean Boosink. Oh, they both... well, Clean Boosink just felt sorry for himself. Then Pretty Susan tried to overtake him off the circuit, and that's why it's going to be a tricky re-entry. Clean Boosink, they might have to take some responsibility for that one, but it was all very clumsy. Here they were, just so easy to do that, because he carries so much speed normally. It's a little bit banked that corner, and then all of a sudden one lap he sent a bit too much, and then he saw Clean Boosink going down the inside, just playing his rival off, and Michael Barron gets involved in that as well.
Yeah, and both those drivers, Sean Stevens, are dropping into the lane as well to get that damage repaired on that car. But yeah, very clumsy way there to rejoin, no doubt. Race control definitely be keeping an eye on that as to see what's going on, and potentially some handout penalties later on. Harrison Sola's doing a good job in amongst all that collision, though, up 4 spots at the moment, down into 13th position, so going along quite nicely. As we see the penalty for Warren Pickering in the 718, he'll have a drive through for that contact.
So that was on lap 1 then. So I don't think a decision has been made about that other contact that we saw. Block. That was close. It's about covering the line off. Like I said earlier on, so tricky to overtake around this track. So these mistakes earlier on in the race where he dropped quite a few places, it's going to be tricky to get them back up, because you got that when you move down at the end of the back straight, it's going to be your best just also turn 2 as well. But apart from that, the rest of this lap is very tight and twisty. I always think this place is the Hungarian of the US, and that's maybe a little bit harsh because this place is quite just as significant as the Hungarian. But it does remind me with all these slow corners, particularly at the end of the lap. Pickering comes into the pits then to serve that drive-through. Fortunately for him, it's probably the shortest pit lane that we have all season long.
Yeah, I'll be in and out really, really quickly here, and going to have to be careful not to drop too much as far as time's concerned. We did see for that stop for Matthew Barron. So just for a comparison, where he trundled through earlier on, he's working through turn 9, while our leaders are down into turn number 4 at the moment. So you do drop a fair way down, but you come out with a nice, healthy bit of free air, and certainly get back on with the pace in these laps.
By the way, what was the pit lane time? The Hupperts was stationary for 30 seconds. They maybe took tyres and a bit of fuel, because he pitted on lap 1 from 4th place. We believe that was just to get one of his pit stops complete. It's also extremely low fuel consumption, this kit. I recall doing an IMSA race, it's probably about a couple of years ago, but there was major ice, he just didn't come into the pits because the fuel consumption is so low around this circuit, it wasn't worth it. We, of course, drivers are going to have to pit, but it gives them a lot of flexibility when it comes to the pit stops that they have today. So certainly watch out for that element. Seemingly Harper's just trying to get those tyres done straight away. He is almost a lap down, however, he's pretty much at the keyhole at the moment. A few corners up the road. Out in the lead, Craig Edwards then being hunted down by Anthony Winkelmann. Winkelmann, who was very strong last round, so has done 1 to 2 rounds before that as well, but made a few critical mistakes with Winkelmann last round. Maybe had the pace in Edwards, but made a few kind of small mistakes, but there's no mistakes currently being made by him. He's really looking locked in, and he's taking about 0.3 of a second out of Edwards every single lap right now.
Yeah, really looking consistent. He's bouncing back from those issues he had at Silverstone last week, and as you say, was in really good stead. He was coming on strong right at the back end. A couple of braking issues for him, and that unfortunately promoted him down into second, or dropped him down into second place, sorry, but he's found good form in the BMW at the moment. You can see him closing right in on the gearbox of Craig Edwards there, just behind. Keep an eye on that BMW there of Luke Pink from Mach 1 Esports as well. He was very dominant early on at Watkins Glen, and certainly a track similar in what Mid-Ohio offers. He'll be very quick alongside here tonight as well.
So Luke Pink actually got ahead of Kane Ryder. I think he may have missed that move. So apologies for that, but you can see how he's been able to sprint away ever since. The amateur driver, Luke Pink. It's safe to say he's not better than that. This is the move then from Pink. How he managed to get the overtake done. Was it actually a mistake then from the driver ahead? It was, so a little bit of an off track actually. For Kane Ryder, and that is how Pink got ahead and then pulled instantly at quite a large gap.
Yeah, right on board here. It's a really blind run down into 4. You look like you can carry a lot more speed than you really can through the mid-corner, and for Kane Ryder, unfortunately, that little bit too much momentum did see him off the track. Was able to rejoin just in front of Danny Davison and Braden Nash, so luckily not to lose any more than just the one spot, but he's going to have to get a move on if he wants to close back up onto the back of Luke Pink now.
So Edwards now with Winkelmann right on his tail. How important is it for Edwards to keep track position? As off the track is Darren Lobb, who was running in a decent place for Lobb. He was running up in 14th place. He was up 8 places from his start. Not anymore though. He's dropped outside the top 20. This is how this one happened. Looks like it's just a self-mistake because the elevation change right there. Really tricky. Just oh, that was a strange one. I thought he was going to dip the wheels into the grass, but no, just losing the rear end. And going to go to the 999 car.
Julian Klinbesink up on screen at the moment, currently down in the 11th spot, has gained 3 spots from where he started, so it's not too bad a run for him. Remember, he made a change through the course of the championship, switching over to Future Sim Racing, and it's coming on in pretty good stead at the moment. He's closing up on the back of Lithuate, and then you've got Tim Phoeben just ahead. Those two battling for the 9th and 10th position at the moment as well. But Klimbersink putting in some good lap times last time by, was actually quicker than both the two ahead of him. So the car certainly to his liking at the early stage of this race, and potentially we're going to see him climb up a couple more steps on his run through this race tonight.
Martin Crisp just made a mistake. He's dropped back a couple of places into the P15 now. By the way, what on earth is that profile picture for Clean Boosting? What? Also, he's Dutch. That looks quite a New Zealand photo.
Yeah, very New Zealand-esque there with the fern and the kiwi bird on it. But yeah, definitely the Dutch flag for him under the nationality. So interesting thoughts there. Danny Davison, however, up in 5th, starting to come under a huge amount of attack now from Braden Nash, Josh Thomas right behind. You can see Trent Thomas from Trick Esports missing the front end of his BMW following some earlier contact in the race. But nice little train of 4 and potentially going to be 5 here in the not too distant future, starting to form up.
Apparently he lives in New Zealand. I can't believe who's that off the track? Is that Nash?
Fletcher.
Oh, sorry.
Billy Fletcher there for Luxsim 24 Esports, having a rotation there, and that was down middle of turn 5 there.
So it turns out that Clean Boosting was born in the Netherlands, but lives in New Zealand. Did you know the reason why New Zealand is called New Zealand is because there is like a county or a state in the Netherlands called Zeeland, and so when they found New Zealand, they called it New Zealand, which is that my little interesting fact for you today. I thought that was really interesting personally. So no, I like that one. I can't believe I didn't use that back straight away. Danny Davison is catching up to Kane Ryder. They're all in a big chain art, these Jazz. Nash did have a little bit of an off track on the last lap and actually did lose the place then to Joshua Thomas. He's gone from 9th to 6th now. Nash with a 22.4 on that last lap. Thomas with a 21.1. The leaders 19.2 as we see. Lap 3 Stevens has got a drive to penalty, has got another driver off the circuit, and it is clean boost sync. This time, he's gone off the track. That's the corner that everyone's struggling with.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky corner for the remainder of the night for these guys to get the braking markers right. We're right on board here with Klimbasink as he fires down only a fraction late. I think, if anything, maybe just a little off put there with Aiden Litherwaite turning in, just missing that marker. Lucky not to rotate that car. We've seen that in the V8s where it grabs those couple of wheels and wants to go over, but lucky to get away with that. Mitch Bales closes up on the back of Kane Ryder. Martin Savassi getting in and amongst it as well, and not a bad little fight scrapping up for 16th position at the moment, and we'll see whether any of these guys draw into the lane, but I think they're going to continue on as we're seeing some interesting strategies from quite a few drivers already coming down for their early pit stops.
Yeah, and also Team Boosting got a drive through penalty, so quite a few drive through penalties as well given out at the moment, which is quite a not the biggest penalty. We'll probably lose to about probably just over 10 seconds, maybe 10, 12 seconds, as here comes Bales. He is going to get it done this time past Ryder, who opens the door up, and then there's contact with Martin Silvassi. Well, that was a bit clumsy from Silvassi. It was a late move. The door, I guess, was open, but could argue that the line was going to close. Undoubtedly, the stewards will have a look at this as we hitch forward the shoulder cam. Yeah, well, no, it'll be interesting to see what the stewards think about that, because the gap was open and then just cutting back in, taking that line was the drive ahead. But yeah, shame there for Ryder to lose a few places. Vecchio makes a bit of a mistake in P11, puts Huggan, his teammate, right on his tail.
Yeah, and also Klimbasink coming back through after that drive through. So both the Fords just struggling a little bit on the change of direction over the crest there, and that really did open them right back up to the Fusion Sim Racing driver, who we did see come in just a lap ago for his penalty, but closing back in on these guys now. Just behind that as well, Martin Crisp, Richard Hunter getting involved in it, and Mitch Bales closes back in on that group as well. So some good little battles up and down throughout the field. Let's not forget our race leaders too. That gap hasn't changed too much either between Edwards and Winkelman, still at just on 0.4 of a second right now. So while we've got some good battles in the midfield, the race for the lead still hot as ever.
And Pink is keeping up with them on that. Last lap, Pink was actually a few hundredths of a second faster than these two drivers. So it's looking like it's going to be a three-way battle. Ryder just not with the pace to keep with these guys. Remember, Kane Ryder got up into second place on the opening lap, but hasn't had the pace ever since then. He's got quite a few queue of drivers behind. Are Kane Ryder and Vaughan Ryder related?
Potentially, they're both in the Max Boost team, so more than likely, yes. However, we have been caught out a few times before with drivers of similar last names not being the case. We're just seeing there the issue for lap 10, the 388, or the 338, sorry, and the 974. That was the Martin Silvassi contact racing incident. No further action, so those two free to continue on in their position. So not too good turnout there for Silvassi, but Kane Ryder got a good pace at the moment as we see a couple more drivers down the lane. That was Pat Gallo and William Mitchell. Richard Hunter also in the lane for his stop as well.
Apparently they are brothers, so thank you to Dave Clements there for that little information. We have got Billy Fletcher in the race, who I always think is related to Mark Fletcher, who I think did a one-off commentary actually for Apex Racing TV a little while back. But they're not related, so I'm very cautious when it comes to that stuff. But thanks to Dave for letting us know about that one. Warren Pickering looks like he's going to be able to get past Silvastri, who's already got involved in an incident down at turn 2 a few laps ago, and he has to let that one go as well. Apologies, that is a rider being overtaken. Pickering will be next, who of course got that that drive-through penalty earlier on. Ryder not with the pace that he really needs. Both Ryder brothers struggling to back up their kind of qualifying pace in this, or their early race pace at least, with this later race pace. He is up 12 places to be fair, as Ryder. He has done a good job at just slipping back at the moment, and Jordan Cullis as well, who should be way further up the order. We know how competitive Cullis is. He's also with them as Clean Boosting comes into the pits for the second time. First time was for the drive-through, and now he's come into the pits for a proper pit stop, I believe.
Yeah, probably not a bad time to be doing it. You will be looking to try and space these out as much as possible, but got to definitely have a long way to go on the tyres. Luke Pink doing a standout job, still in the third position, actually set the purple lap last time by, so fastest man out on track in the Mach 1 Esports BMW, doing a fantastic job. If anything, closing the gap now to our leading two as they get into it. Hammer and Tom, you can just see in the bottom of the frame there, both Winkelman and Edwards not letting go of each other, and that in turn is allowing Luke Pink to close in, and we're going to have a solid three-way battle for our lead. We're probably about 2 or 3 laps now.
As long as he's close enough come the pit stops, he'll be in a good position, won't he? I mean, he maybe come into the pits 1 lap early so that the doesn't get in traffic, or maybe stay out a little bit longer. Say has some low fuel. So as long as he's close by the pit stops, then yeah, he's going to be very good. We're only 17 minutes into this 90-minute race. We've got a long way to go. And of course, if we have a safety car, that will certainly bring others into contention. Actually, on that last lap, Kane Ryder, he's improving on his time. Fastest lap of the race for Ryder, his personal best lap of the race. Also, Davison and Thomas both set their fastest laps as well. Is this just the tyres getting a little bit better, or what? Has it got a bit more overcast? Because it's strange to see on this lap 14, 3 drivers in succession to set their personal best laps.
Yeah, probably a little bit to do with the weather. The tyres obviously should be at proper operating temperature right now, but I think the main thing we're starting to see, the gaps just equalising a little bit, where the guys can start focusing ahead, get the brake markers absolutely perfect, and in turn promoting the better lap time. Like seeing at the moment, Kane Ryder has now been able to edge away a little bit from Danny Davison and Josh Thomas, and that's certainly helping him with the consistency in those cars. Actually, last time by, yeah, he was 0.2 quicker than our race leaders, so everything's starting to come in, and while they continue on the way they are, definitely going to start making up a little bit of time. And for any of the viewers who would love to keep an eye on the action as it goes through, the SDK Gaming link is in the description on the iRacing Esports Network there. That'll give you all the live timing, exactly the same as we see. And you can bring up the track map. It's really interesting to see the gaps that are starting to form throughout the course of this field, and potentially try your hand at a little bit of behind the scenes pit reporting and where they're going to land in.
Yeah, certainly all that stuff is extremely useful. And yeah, with the front runners kind of reaching to the back of the chain, there's a lot of drivers kind of all at the back of the order as well. And with a few laps, they are going to be right with them. As Jordan Cullis, has he got past? Well, he has got past Ryder. Next up for him will be Pickering. And then Silvassi, who I don't think got a penalty for that. We did see a racing instant decision for car 338 and 974. Silvassi is car number 974. There you go. So it was deemed a racing incident between him and Vaughan Ryder, which I think was probably the right decision. I mean, the door was open, but yeah, it very quickly closed. They get part of this car alongside at least Silvassi, so he doesn't have to worry about giving that position back up or coming back into the pits. He's got to worry though about keeping Pickering right behind him. They are now 6 seconds behind Timothy Feeben and losing time to Timothy Feeben as well. Passing Chris comes into the pits.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that, Mark. Chris dropping in the lane, but these three continuing on for another lap, coming on to the start of lap 17. So good run for them currently. And I mean, Johnny, we spoke about this a few times over the course of the championship season. We normally expect for the Enduros, the guys to really look at splitting them up. They do have to do 2 stops over the course of the night, 1 mandatory stop that does include 4 tyre change as well. So for the guys that are able to leave it as late as possible, they're going to find themselves in a really good position later on. But right now, the tyre consistency on all these cars looking quite healthy at the moment. Blake Delaney down in the 21st spot. He's got Martin Crisp right in front of him, and the recovering Darren Lobb, who we saw have that rotation early on in the piece in the DPR Ferrari, coming back through. These guys, well down the order at the moment though, down in 21st position. So a long way for these guys if they want to pull themselves back up the order tree.
Yeah, they've got a lot of hard work coming up for them later on. Will be interesting when the Jazz decide to take those tyres. Do you take out your first pit stop, maybe your second pit stop? How long do you make your two first stints? Maybe 2 short ones, and then take tyres at the second one, or maybe the first one really long, and then the second one a little bit shorter. So yeah, plenty of options for the drivers out there. As into the pit goes Darren Lobb. So he nips on into the pits. And Mitchell Bale's a little bit by himself at the moment in that 13th place. He's ahead of Timothy Theben now, who has just come into the pits. Theben behind Jordan Cullis, though, I am seeing. So Cullis, who pitted on the opening lap. Apologies, no, Theben is still ahead of Cullis. Yeah, already made those pit stops of those drivers. So Theben currently top of the drivers who have come into the pits. Warren Pickering, meanwhile, he has finally got past Silvassi, and it looks like Cullis will go with him round the outside at the top of the hill. Has the inside for the right-hander. Easy enough there for Jordan Cullis. Those two seemingly working together, Pickering and Cullis, after their earlier issues to move their way up through the order. Next up for them, Timothy Theben. I'll take them a little while to catch up to that. These guys really need a safety car right now, and then they'd be right back into the mix for a top 10.
Yeah, we're looking at the track map at the moment. We've got 4 distinct groups circulating around at the moment. You can see our race leaders working down through turn at number 4. Second group on their way into the braking zone at 4, and then the drivers that we're following at the moment working their way through the mid corner of the lap. So interesting to see this group though in the top 3 coming up through probably the most technical section of this course, where you've got a lot of hill change, a lot of off-camber scenarios. You can see the DPR Ferrari just sidestepping and letting Luke Pink through. But Pink definitely closing that gap, now down to 0.8 of a second to Anthony Winkleman and Craig Edwards. So he's got a lot of pace on board the Mark 1 BMW at the moment, and putting it to really good use right now.
It's got to be Winkleman in the best position right now, of course, saving a bit of fuel. Should be able to make a short pit stop potentially at the next pit stop if he so chooses, and might be able to get track position. But just being in the slipstream, even though this isn't a very slipstream heavy circuit, just being where he has been for this entire stint, it's just kind of saving those extra couple of litres, which is massively going to help him later on in the event. So really working well at the moment for the driver in second place. Pink hasn't quite got close enough on this entire stint to really benefit from that toe, but there's still time. Still close up. We're expecting the pit stops perhaps in about 20 minutes time. It's going way off the circuit there. Is Dan Lobb, the driver, 1 lap down. Good battle right now with the guys a bit further down the order. A few chopping and changing as well recently. I think Born Riders just lost out to a few places to these drivers. Back to where he starts actually now is Ryder. We'll start to a few of those drivers who have already come into the pits. This was the mistake from him. We saw that similar mistake earlier on, didn't we? So that seems to be a trouble spot for these GT cars.
Yeah, it's a really awkward spot because you're coming off the brakes, trying to get the car up over that crest. You don't have the downforce that you predominantly have through some of the more sweeping corners on this circuit. So we've seen it tonight, the BMW, the Ferraris, no exception. The Ford's looking very, very loose through that part of the circuit as well. And as you can see here, Specchio's got the back end of that Ford all the way up. And commentator Kersey's looped it around in the exact same spot, able to get it back on the way. I don't think he's going to have any traffic to contend with either, so very fortunate to not lose any more positions than that, but that helps definitely Tim Theben and Mitch Bales.
I don't know how much you paid Specchio there to spin, just so that you sounded right. But a worthwhile investment is all I can say on that front. No, that wasn't a curse. That was good commentating. That was preempting. No, they're very good. Meanwhile, King Ryder still clear of Danny Davison, who pretty much been this distance back all the way through. They were briefly matching the top 3. So the gap got up to about 7 seconds. Then it dipped down to 6 seconds, back up to 8.5 now. but they're certainly much more competitive than they were earlier on. So maybe it was just kind of warming up the tyres for Kane Ryder, which he was really struggling with earlier on. But yeah, he's much more competitive at this point. And you can see Davison, Nash, Thomas, Luthwaite, all pretty close as well.
And our lead three now under 1 second, separating all three of them on circuit as well. We just cut to that little battle. You see Pink closed right up now to these guys. Winkelmann has not let go of Edwards. That gap still under the 3/10 of a second mark. But these three definitely the class of the field at the moment. The pace very, very consistent. All drivers last time by 1:19.2s. Edwards just a little bit slower, 1:19.36. But these three doing a fantastic job right now, and this battle is going to really start intensifying.
By the way, I think we may have missed a mistake from Josh Thomas, who has dropped back down into 9th place at a lap a couple of laps ago, which was where he lost about 4 seconds. He was running in 6th, was Josh Thomas, back down to 9th place now. So that promotes Nash Thomas, Trent Thomas, and Aidan Luther. Might actually get a replay of this. So thanks to Scott Newton for showing this off for Thomas. Oh, it's another one of those mistakes. There you are.
Yeah, the exact same spot. Lucky not to loop the back end of that car around, but a lot of drivers really finding it tricky getting through that mid corner, turn 9, as they crest the top there in through Thunder Valley, and it's a really easy corner to lose. I mean, these guys extremely experienced with these cars. We've seen them for a multitude of seasons now operating them, but yeah, it just goes to prove they can catch out not only the rookies but catch out the seasoned veterans as well.
A little bit of discussion on the YouTube chat about what GTE cars could come. I mean, it would be awesome if we had the Aston Martin. Which Aston Martin, though? I mean, we could get the V12, couldn't we? From a few years back. I realise it would be terribly outdated. But it'd still be pretty cool. Or you could get the new one. Which one would you prefer? And also, we could get the Corvette, I believe. I don't think there's any other GTEs we could get. Or am I being... or am I wrong on that front, Daniel?
No, that is the cars. Although, are we likely to see a potential Porsche update as well? I mean, they've switched from the rear mount engine that we have in this current car to the mid mount, and a whole new floor design. So potential that could come later on. But I think the Aston is the big one that I'd love to see. I know the rumble of the GT, the Corvette sounds fantastic. It has changed a lot with the new C8, but I don't know. I'd love to see that Aston back in there. It's a shame we've only got it just in a GT1 capacity, as we see Specchio getting back underway out of the lane, but I'd love to see the GTE equivalent.
Yeah, that would be great. Very disappointing on that Aston Martin. We were promised so many cars. I mean, this was before I even joined iRacing, but yeah, promised many GT or many Aston Martin cars a few years ago. But, actually hasn't quite come to fruition. Julian Clean Boosting, the Dutch New Zealander. By the way, another fact. I don't call it interesting because it's anything but. But Holland is actually a county, I think, in the Netherlands. So you can't say Holland. You gotta say the Netherlands if you're referring to the country. A little bit. I don't know why I know that, but I just do. So he's moved up there, Clean Boosting, into 18th place. That was on Matthew Barron. He has pitted Barron on the opening lap of the race. A few drivers came in on the opening lap of the race. Cullis, Barron, Huppertz. Also, we had Stevens, who came in on lap 2 as well. Vandenberg pitted on lap 3. We're not quite sure about those strategy because we think that is just one of their normal pit stops, but then you asked the question of Huppertz, who pitted on lap 1 and had a 30-second pit stop, whilst everyone else was about 10 seconds or less. So it's a little bit confusing. We're not 100% sure as to what's going on that front, but I'm sure it'll be very clear by the end of the race, and if we can get any post-race interviews as well with the drivers. Trent Thomas, he is still running in P9. Josh Thomas is running in P9. Trent Thomas behind Brendan Nash. Other Thomases related?
No, different brothers of different
Okay.
Thomas's those guys. So no relation there. But Trent doing a fantastic job, even with that damage on the front end of that BMW, has not dropped away from Lithuate, who he's now closing in the Synergy Sim Racing car, and Thomas doing a good job. I mean, he's got Braden Nash Synergy Sim Racing in front of him, himself for Trick Esports, and then you've got Lithuate there again in that Synergy Sim Racing car. So a little bit of the meat in the sandwich between the Synergy cars, and all three BMWs looking quite good at this point. Very consistent driving for all of them. Although Trent with the lose through turn 9 again, lucky not to get cleaned up there, as we saw Josh Thomas for Fishing Motorsports coming through as well.
So Thomas drops to 9th. He drops behind his not brother, Joshua Thomas. Does Trent Thomas into set 9th place, which is shame for him. But everyone a little bit slow on that lap actually. Luthwaite did a 21.5. Quite sure where that mistake from Luthwaite was. Maybe it was just slowing up for his rival. Block with a slide, and was gain a slide, maybe overheating the tires. Back down the inside goes to the BMW of Stevens. He's got the inside for this next corner. That's a nice move there from Stevens. Had to get his elbows out, but the BMW wide enough to muscle his way through. Past Hunter. Huppert's still at the back of this, and making the progress that Huppert's would have wanted. Of course, a former champion in this series. I believe that I don't think he won the championship last season, did he? But I think he won the Endurance Cup last season, did Huppert. But well, this is quite turning into a very bad endurance round for him.
Yeah, struggling a little bit tonight. Obviously, we did see him come through early on, but just hasn't found the form in that car to get him further up. Looks like he's going to have a nice opportunity down the inside, Richard Hunter for DPR Racing, and it closes that one off quite nicely down through the keyhole, which is probably one of the preferred braking spots to get a move done. The next one as the guys head down into turn 4 as well. So looking pretty good at the moment. Luke Sutton for Michael One Esports doing a good job as well. He's got Julian Klimasek right behind these guys, fighting over the 17th position at this point in time. You can just see Lee Vandenberg as well, having probably a bit of a night to forget for him, well down the order in 16th also. So a few of the seasoned veterans that we traditionally see a lot further up just struggling a little bit tonight, but this fight for 17th is going to be really, really good.
Which corner is the keyhole? Is it turn 2 then?
Yes, turn 2.
I thought it was the next few corners. Oh, dearie me. Oh, I've been getting that wrong all day. Okay, I'm gonna have to load up the track map now. Apologies to anyone who has missed that. Why is that the keyhole? Does it look like a keyhole? Oh, I'm skeptical of it personally, but there you are. Sutton gets past. Oh, sorry, that's Clean Boosting gets him past Sutton. That was all very easy. Oh dear, that's a slide, and they make contact. Well, that was very clumsy there from Clean Boosting, and I think picking up the pieces from this might be Baron, who moves up, and also Sutton's going to lose out to Crisp as well. Well, that's unfortunate for Luke Sutton, because they're so polite going into turn 2, that pretty much letting his rival pass, and then he proceeds to slide into him, and a bit of contact involved.
Yeah, as we cut back to the replay here, you can see as we ride on board, Luke Sutton gets the car through, not too bad. And then you just see Klimbasing runs the wheels off on the dirt there, gets a bit of rotation on the exit. Unfortunate for Sutton there, just left to pinball that car off. So he did drop quite a few spots down, but doesn't look like too much damage. The wheel was nice and straight. Up front, however, it's a fight for Winkelman and Edwards continuing on. They've just dropped Luke Pink just a fraction here as they run their way down over turn 9. No wobble for either of those cars, where we've seen a lot of drivers already go off tonight, but this fight's still continuing on. Martin Silvassi for Trick Esports also in the lane for his first stop tonight as well.
Drag the penalty for Stevens for the contact. 2 laps to go, lap 26, we're on lap 28 now. Coming back out onto track, that was who was that? Was that Silvassi? coming back onto the circuit in the Porsche. He pitted from 14th place, I believe, just a moment ago. Pink actually closes in a little bit now, a 9/10 of a second off Winkleman, but actually losing time down stretch because Winkleman with the slipstream from the car ahead. Got to give him the backing to get ahead come the pit stops. Expect the drivers to take tyres as well. We're coming up to halfway points in this race, and it's kind of while pit for new tyres about halfway through the event. Usually the tyres last a little bit better in the second half of the race when the check is a bit more rubbers in. Also, I believe we're in the afternoon. I don't know if we get the weather up on our screens and just see what the time of day is. There you are. Oh, we're in the evening. 8:06 on May the 15th, which is very almost accurate. It's a fantastic time of year, this. It actually looks as though the studios have taken the time to make it the correct date. In fact, no, it's just the default date. So I'm sure the organisers will be very pleased with that one. And yeah, so it's going to get quite dark, I imagine, by the end of this one when we end in just under an hour's time. And the track cooling down at the moment, 27 degrees Celsius, which is pretty warm considering the time of day. But the tires should last longer and longer as the race goes on. Pink 1/10 of a second faster, it seems, compared to the last set, got back down to 9/10 of a second, but still not close enough. And you can see, on the most part, pretty white on the timing tower, but pretty difficult to tell what's going on because everyone from 13th place down have all made pit stops. So they will be much more prominent by the end of this race, I am sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see a lot more of these guys, especially in that top half dozen of the field, or top dozen of the field, sorry, coming in. Probably in the not too distant future, so we're 38 minutes down, 90 minutes for the race. So still a lot of time left for these guys to get those 2 compulsory stops in tonight. But surprised we haven't seen any of our front runners yet drop through the lane. That being said, Winkleman dives off, and he's the first of our top 3 to blink.
Now that was a curse. And Winkleman, that's strange, isn't it? Winkleman first driver to come into the pits. I would have thought he'd leave it longer than everyone else because he's been saving so much fuel. He would have been able to do 1 extra lap, but instead coming into the pits right now. Will he take tyres? Potentially, if the fuel usage is really low around this, like he is taking tyres. I was thinking maybe he could do like 10 minutes for like a mega short mega short stint and then take tyres later on, but no, he's taking tyres right now. And where will he come out? Currently Cullis, just going through the final corner. Winkleman will be ahead of Cullis. This is quite important. Pickering's also crossing the start-finish line, and there they are. So Cullis, who pitted on the opening lap, he's still behind Winkleman. That's really good for Winkleman. He's come out without too much traffic, and if he'd come out in amongst those drivers who have already pitted, that would have been some tricky moves. Only traffic he's behind is Tom Huggan, who is yet to pit, sliding in 24th place. Did Huggan up into the top 9, but Winkleman will comfortably pass now.
Edwards and Pink also in the lane for their respective stops. So this will be really interesting to see what type of strategy these 2 employ. Is it purely just the fuel or not? Winkleman exiting through turn 5, and we'll keep an eye on where he follows through. Ryder also in as well, as we see Edwards pull up to a stop. Pink not taking fuel or tyres at this point, but it is early on, so keep watching it where this is. Winkleman's already down through Thunder Valley, and we see there Craig Edwards, the car goes up on the jacks. This will be that tyres change getting done and dusted for him now.
So Winkleman was stationary for 29.3 seconds. Taking tyres takes about 26.7 seconds, which indicates that he didn't take really any fuel. I mean, maybe took a few litres, but that was about it. Edwards, I think, got on the jets after about 12 seconds, so he's taking a lot more fuel than Winkleman, hence why Winkleman is so far ahead now. So Winkleman 29.3 seconds stationary, Edwards 36.1, Pink 37.2. So Winkleman has gone for track position. Also would have saved a bit of fuel, obviously, sitting behind the race leader for the entirety of the first stint. So this is now where Winkleman has got to make his race. He's got to play some big lap times here. He's got fresh tyres, he's got low fuel. really be rapid. He'll probably come back into the pits as soon as maybe 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll come into the pits again. So I like this strategy right now from Winkelmann. This is very interesting. It's going some clear air as well because he's not behind Cullis, and meanwhile Edwards is behind Cullis and Pickering. So no, interesting strategy here from Winkelmann to take very little fuel at this first stop.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. I'll be really interested to see the first lap time out from pit lane just to get an idea of how much quicker either of these two drivers are. We can see Cullis, a little bit of a roadblock there for Edwards, although yeah, Edwards not quite closed in, but Pickering working his way through. Also, Winkelmann drops back in a 19.3 for his first hot lap out as Edwards comes across the line. Yeah, about 6 seconds slower on the first initial lap after the lane. So that little bit extra fuel is about right. Pace still very, very consistent for both those two. You see Luke Pink also closed up that gap a bit more to Craig Edwards also.
I'm a little bit surprised that Pink didn't go for track position. I guess you gotta go for your strategy, haven't you? You gotta go for the fastest route to the finish. But it would have been very tempting for Pink just to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna take 4 less liters and get track position on you," and say just took a couple more liters than Edwards. Braden Nash comes into the pits as we've got the spinner of Cullis. Now, I wonder if there's contact potentially with Edwards or Pickering. Cullis, I think, was trying to get past Pickering. Just thinking if oh, it looks like it's just by himself, to be honest. I was worried that Edwards maybe had a bit of a collision here and maybe would get a penalty, but it's a slightly unusual one. Usually we've seen understeer through that corner. This time, see a little bit of oversteer. That Ford's quite a temperamental car, it seems. This was is on board in the shoulder cab. Aging tyres as well, of course.
Yeah, I would have expected the Ford to still have a decent amount of mid-corner grip there. You could hear him dropping an extra gear down. I don't know whether that may have had something to do with it, but I've noticed a few times with the Fords, especially in a few...
Apologies, no, it wasn't a blown. Apologies.
Yeah, the Ford's struggling very much on the transition from the brake back to the throttle to get going again. And I think for those guys in that car tonight, we're going to have to be very mindful of that. Adam Gardner up on screen. He's got Luke Sutton, his teammate, just ahead. And they're pressing on after Martin Crisp and the XRC Racing BMW there. The guys on their run down to 3. Will we see Gardner... thinks about a move, shows the nose at least, but not quite able to do it. Will he try the outside around turn 5? Actually gets gifted the opportunity there. Luke Sutton just steps aside and allows him to continue on.
Both actually pitted on the same lap and had almost identical pit stops as well for these two, so I think they are racing against one another. Winkelmann with the fast up the race, 19.0. It's not absolutely incredible pace. I mean, that's about 1/10 faster than his best lap, previous best lap, as Edwards does a 19.1. So there you go, and Pink with a 19.1, Davison with a 19.0. So yeah, Winkelmann's pace isn't phenomenal, but it's still very good. I mean, there's no denying it is very good, but almost expected him to have maybe a little bit more pace over Edwards. It seemed like he was the faster driver in the early stages, and with that less fuel, this is the time where he should be pulling away right now. He needs to build a gap, because when he comes into pits for his second pit stop, which will be quite soon, there's the risk of him coming out into quite a bit of traffic, so he wants to build a gap right now. Harrison Sellers, haven't seen too much of Sellers so far today. He actually started in 17th place and remains in 17th place. He's on the back of Bale, so we have seen a little bit more of. Bale's starting in 27th. Josh Thomas is now with these guys. Comes with a 41.3 second pit stop, which is the longest pit stop we've seen of anyone. So he fueled up, did Thomas. They expect him to come to the pits very late in this race as Sellers. That's not an overtaking place, mate. Come on, have a bit of patience, as Take That would say. And he will have to wait till maybe turn 2 on the next lap. F1 esports. Seemingly both of these guys dropping back from the drive ahead of Thomas, which is kind of what you expect. To be fair, into the pits comes Martin Crisp from 14th place. This is Crisp's second pit stop. Now I've seen Cullis, Hunter, Block, Baron, and Gallo all come in 2 times so far in this race. That does not include drive throughs, by the way. They do actually have to come stationary for it to come up on our system. By the way, you can look at all the pit stops, the last lap that drivers pitted in, and whatnot on the live timing link in the description below. Click on that, provided by SDK Gaming. It's very useful in a situation like this. You can also see the last lap times for all the drivers, and you would be able to see that Winkelmann just set the fastest lap of the race in 18.78. That's more phenomenal. Lap times a little bit more what we're expecting from him. Sellers looks as though he might be able to get past here. Down the inside, good room being left by both of them, but it's a very tricky part of the course, very narrow, up, over, and back down the crest. And Sellers can't get past Bales then, so he stays behind Bales. And the BMW, which is seemingly the fastest car out here today, doesn't have the pace to move his way up at the moment. It's going to have to wait a bit longer, maybe even worth coming into the pits because they can get to the end of the race on fuel from here. Plenty of drivers still yet to take tyres as well. The drivers who pitted mega early, the majority of them didn't take tyres, so still watch out for that. There's relatively few battles going on at the moment. Anton Winkelmann with another fastest lap of the race in 18.78. Only half a tenth faster though than Craig Edwards, who is pushing like mad, I'm sure, to keep that gap as small as possible. 6.5 seconds at the moment. It's extended a little bit in this stint so far, but Winkelmann now coming across plenty of traffic. One of the pieces of traffic is Trent Thomas, who is still the race leader, the only man on the entire grid who is yet to pit.
Yeah, I don't expect to see much hassle there from Thomas, being the teammates. They will just allow each other to siphon through and continue on, but it is starting to hurt Edwards a little bit. You can see him in the background just struggling with a little bit of lap traffic as they work their way through, and that gap continuing to increase to Winkelmann at this point.
Yeah, it's actually increased quite a bit on that lap, I believe. No, it's 7.6 seconds at the moment between the two of them. Be a little bit larger than it was before. Gardner and Vandenberg coming into the pits, so those two were really early in the pits earlier on. Certainly Vandenberg, not quite sure about Gardner. They're coming for their second pit stops, and Vandenberg taking new tyres. So that'll be his pit stop done, and he should have a clean run to the end of the race. Bales still ahead of Sellers, a little bit further back. We've also got this one with Baron and Block, sure running further down than Ned Hope, but they have both pitted twice. So this race will come back to them. They are nearly a lap and a half though off the lead at the moment, and that's a few bit dense as well in that Ford machine. Of course, hoping that we get new damage model for the GTE cars in the next build, coming in about 4 weeks or so. Would be a very welcome addition, but you do appreciate from Iris and Legotti every single one of these cars to make them actually work. And also they have to do the DP as well, and the GT3s if you're going to have it for the Inter series. So might be a little while till we get that.
Yeah, probably going to take a little bit of time to come through, but I'd love to also see an updated DP car as well. We've had the old C7 for quite a while, and the new DPI car category class looking very, very good at this point. I think that'd really spice up all class events, but the damage model that we've already seen on the likes of some of the open wheeler cars quite phenomenal at this point. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when we see more of the body panels on these cars starting to separate under some big incidents.
And also, when you get repairs, you can replace it instead of the mechanics getting a hammer out and just absolutely hitting everything out of the car, trying to bend it back into shape. Instead, they're just going to get a new part, bolt it all on. Absolutely superb. So, looking forward to that one. And yeah, DPI. I mean, I personally Corvette C7 DP is my favorite car on all of iRacing. But unfortunately, there's only about 5 people who run it across the entire week in the official series, so it's very much dead. So unfortunately, isn't used so much. So a DPI would be quite welcome. Would be a really strong IMSA class, wouldn't it? If we could have that, would make all the IMSA events like Daytona 24 Sebring 12 hours and see Le Mans that bit more fun. Also Le Mans as well with a DPI. That'd be cool. Replacing the HPD, who is a little bit extinct now. Thomas and Clean Boosting then coming into the pits. That is Clean Boosting's third time in the pits because he took a drive through as well. Thomas also coming in. Trent Thomas from the lead of the race, and he's fueled up a long time. 40.5 seconds, Trent Thomas. That's I'm not sure. Interesting strategy from Thomas. I'm surprised he even needs that much fuel. So he took 14 seconds of fuel. I think Trent Thomas might come in on the last lap of the race, or the penultimate lap of the race, and just so that he served that, which is pretty much a strategy that no one else has gone for. We've seen some guys come in on the first lap of the race. It seems like we're going to have someone come in on the second to last lap of the race.
It's certainly an interesting strategy to see in that car. I'd love to see it work out. I mean, we saw over the last few seasons a lot of drivers opt for the first lap strategy, especially once the rule change came in, where only a season and a half ago it was after the third lap it got changed, so the drivers could come in at the end of their first lap. And it really opened up some unique strategies. We've seen a lot of drivers take it to full effect and actually really surprised us in the commentary box where they've come through in later portions of the event. So for the likes of Thomas, try something a little bit unique, a little bit out of the box, and certainly something different could come out of it.
Winkelmann leads them by 9 seconds. He's edging out that gap, quarter of a second faster that last time round. Edwards, by the way, took 6.8 seconds more fuel. However, Winkelmann was in the tow of Edwards for the entirety of the first stint. So I think you can kind of reduce that to about 5 seconds extra fuel that he's got. And so really Edwards got a 4-second lead. Winkelmann's got a 4-second lead right now in this race. But he will come into the pit sooner, which will mean that Edwards and Pink will be able to set some extra laps on low fuel, whilst Winkelmann will be on higher fuel. Also, Winkelmann might come out in traffic. If he pits in now, he'd probably come out around Luthwaite, which wouldn't be very convenient for him. Luthwaite is currently 20 seconds behind. So, yeah, we're probably coming out around Luthwaite, maybe a little bit further behind Luthwaite, which could cause him some issues. So that's the hope for Edwards and Pink. However, Winkelmann, I think, has got the edge at the moment on his rivals. Luke Pink, unfortunately, he's kind of been cooped up a little bit behind Edwards right now. 0.7 of a second behind. Closest battle, well, there's a few close battles at the moment. We've got Bales and Huggan in 11th and 12th. Sellers getting past Bales, by the way. Oh, no, sorry. Sellers, Bales never got past Sellers, so he's still 2 seconds behind. That move never came to fruition, and actually Bell's now falling off. Huggan, you pitted more recently, 7 laps more recently. He's floating up. Also, Silvassi has just had an off. That's about 2/3 of the way around the lap. Silvassi has gone off, and this is what happened to Sellers and Bales quite recently. So this was how managed to get past Sellers a while back.
Pretty textbook move down into 4 and going the long way around through turn 6, which is something you don't see, but holding quite steady mark there in the forward. Really good run for both of those two to get through side by side through probably the trickiest section, or if not the trickiest section of the circuit as well. So really solid effort for both of those drivers.
So here is that was how Sellers then got past on that occasion. So yeah, managed to get past right there. And since then has been able to open up that gap a little bit. Luke Sutton and Joshua Thomas now very close. Look at this. Pitted vastly different times. 25 laps difference. Slightly fresh tyres for Thomas as he goes around the outside. Has he managed to get that move done? Fishing Motorsports just about pulling ahead. Nice move there from Thomas to move back up into 7th place. He's got a much better pace at the moment than Sutton. Also, they both got past Davison on that last lap. Apologies, Davison just came into the pits, I believe, so no worries about that.
Well, these guys still having a very solid run, although Sutton just catch to him going very, very wide on that final corner, runs it down into the lane for his next stop. But very fortunate not to take that car off into the weeds there. Mitch Bales continuing on. Actually, we can see a little bit of damage on the wing of Silvassi as well there from his off a little bit earlier as well. So the BMW for Trick Esports not faring too well at this point, and well down the order, down in 28th position. So very unfortunate for Silvassi, who was looking really, really strong in that car early on, but a lot of work still to do. He's got Pat Gallo just in front, so potential there for a couple of more positions before the end of this one.
Yeah, lots kind of gone on which we haven't seen in this race. It's kind of tricky to keep up with everything, to be honest. So many different narratives, but it's been a fun race. I've been surprised by the quality of racing, I'd say. The driving and the overtakes in this race. Sure, we've seen a few penalties in the early stages, but on the most part, particularly for the last 3/4 of an hour, it's been really good driving from these guys, and some fantastic overtakes, particularly around that kind of turn 4, 5, 6 area. It's been fantastic efforts, and much easier overtaking as well than I thought. I thought we would potentially see pretty much no overtaking around this place, but we have seen plenty of it, and when it has happened, it's been very stylish. So good job from the drivers today.
Barron and Ford getting in a little bit of a scrap down for 22nd. They've got Darren Lobb just behind in that DPR Ferrari as well. Barron running a bit of an interesting line through the keyhole there, turn 2, just struggling maybe to pull that car up a little bit in the mid corner, but Vlock, who I thought was going to have a good chance to get through, likewise starting to struggle. As we ride on board with Lobb, this would be a great shot. As the light's starting to fade, you can see the illumination from the cars really starting to glow, especially on those Fords under the buttresses on that car. All these guys struggling just a fraction, steering getting light through that turn 9 complex, and for the Ferrari doing a really good job just to hold station at this point, maybe going to set up for a move as they close up into that final corner. Not quite there at this point, but certainly coming on strong in the final stages of this race.
Lob, it's so close. All glitches out. That's not what Dan Lob would have wanted to see, the South African. Vlok doesn't defend going into 2. The door is open for Lob. Here he goes. Has to take quite an acute angle, and there's contact between the two of them. Now, I don't think there was a whole lot, to be honest, that Lob could have done, to be honest. I don't think he really understood too much on his rival, but it's a Vlok who drops down to 24th place then. Here is a replay of how it happened.
Yeah, both guys getting a good run over that final, over the start-finish line there. You can see Lob loses that little bit of a gap, the glitch there for Vlok, mid-corner through 1, which is what no following driver wants to see from the car in front of them as they go up through towards the keyhole. Lob makes a little bit of a move. Both cars...
previous lap. Aha!
Here we go.
I was thinking it was... I didn't know about that camera. I was thinking, is that camera just really deceived me? Actually, it was like way further back than we thought. But no, it was the camera was right, and there was the contact. A little bit of lag as well for Vlok, which made it tricky for Lob. We'll see if the stewards intervene. on that one.
Those Vlogs still struggling a little bit with that connection through one, which is going to be very off-putting for these drivers. Craig Edwards, though, up in second position, having a moment through turn 4, doesn't get that car slowed up, and that's really opened the door for Luke Pink now to come up and have a sniff for second position. So these two are going to start a really solid scrap. Wasn't that long ago that before these pit stops changed, it was a BMW or Winkelmann having a nibble on the back of Edwards. Now we've changed teams, and the Mark 1 Esports car for Luke Pink, they're getting involved in it.
Nash not too far behind either. Should be added that Nash will have to take a lot more fuel later on, but he did gain a second on these guys on the last lap. So Edwards did a 20.1, 19.3 on that time, but you're absolutely right before how he seemed to run wide at some point. We have seen that mistake from Edwards already today. Pink actually losing a little bit of time that time round, which is a bit rare for him. The thing is, Pink will still have sights on the race win. I'm sure he doesn't really want to battle properly with Edwards. Gap's up to 10.5 seconds now. Remember, Winkelmann with quite 5 seconds disadvantage when it comes to the fuel. I really thought Winkelmann would be in the pits, to be honest, by now. But he's kept it out there. He's still going.
And the pace for him has been very, very good, very consistent. I mean, he did dip to an 18.7 was his quickest lap, which was the quickest lap of anyone out there over the course of the race. Last time by 19.15. So just looking after those tyres still yet, as we say, to make that second stop. But this one's starting to play into his hands quite nicely. He's extended the lead over Edwards, who we saw having that little bit of a moment just a lap ago, but everything's starting to play in nicely for him. He's got his teammate Silvassi just ahead. Remember, he's a lap down, so I don't think there'll be any issues there. As you can see, Silvassi just moves over and allows him through. But it's been a pretty faultless run for Winkelmann, who we thought last week potentially going to make 3 on the run. Had those issues we touched on earlier at Silverstone, but has rebounded quite nicely from that and hasn't put a foot wrong tonight.
Now, I thought there was a fuel limit in this series, but I don't think there actually is. Something's come to down lob, and he's actually got past Baron here, going into the keyhole, which I now know is the name of that corner, not another corner around this track. Past goes lob. Got good pace right now. Fortunately for him, this driver is Sean Stevens, 7 seconds up the road. And Stevens actually with good pace, 19.0 on that last lap. That's similar pace to the race leaders. He's got a bit of pace still as the 21st position driver. Apologies, I thought there was a fuel limit, but Daniel, is there not a fuel limit in these enduro races?
No, as long as the guys come twice within it, the only main mandatory stop is that fuel strategy that they must, or the tyre strategy, sorry, they must complete all 4 tyres, but there is 2 mandatory pit stops. So for these guys to come in, they can play around with those options on the refuel. And you know, we have seen a lot of unique scenarios done from that, where we've seen drivers come in 1 lap to do their short stop, the next lap to do the long stop, and some very interesting strategy calls in how this has unfolded over the course of the last couple of championships. A little further down now, Adam Gardner, 25th position. He's closes back up on Adrian Vlock and Matthew Barron. Vlock, again, still having that struggle through turn 1 with the connection issues, and that's been going on for the last 3 or 4 minutes already, so it's a little bit of a disconcerting time for him there.
We saw a remarkable end to a race on Friday. I can't remember what the series called, but it was absolutely incredible. Where we saw the race leader, who won race 1, went from 20th to 1st in race 2, and it was into Lagos. So coming out of going up the hill on the last lap in the lead, he's just taken the lead at like the lap previously, and he's disconnected and retired from the race. Unbelievable scenes. If Vlock did disconnect, I don't think it'd be quite as heartbreaking as that. No disrespect to him, but it would still be very disappointing to him. I'm sure he'd rather have that disconnect right now though, compared to later on. on the run to the line. Luthwaite is into the pits from P5. His final pit stop. It's a little bit early for Luthwaite. Doesn't need to take tyres. Where would he come? It could be maybe Danny Davison in P8. This is more fuel than I thought Luthwaite would take. It's up to 15 seconds already, 15.7. Looks as though Davison will actually move past him then. Sellers is also going to the pits and Huggin. However, Luthwaite will be ahead of Pickering at least. So there goes Aidan Luthwaite. But very quiet race for Luthwaite today, but he's been very consistent for CNG Sim Racing at 997. Should be on course for a top 5, Luthwaite, which would be a good result for him.
Richard Hunter starting to look quite racy, closes up on the back of Martin Crisp. These guys are in the 17th, 18th position respectively. Pace still quite good for these guys, about 2 to 3 tenths slower than what we're seeing from our race leaders on average at the moment, but not letting go. They've still got their second stops to come. As you can see, the Porsche looks really, really good through that final section where it flows a lot. Through the carousel there before they come across the line. Nash also in the lane for Synergy Sim Racing, so drops from the 4th position. And we'll keep an eye to where he falls back out, potentially going to be ahead of his teammate Lithuate still when that cycles through. Vandenberg has got Tom Huggins right behind, who we saw having some issues in the Ford earlier on, recovering from that and continuing on quite nicely. 14th, a good position for him to be right now. Still 8 spots down from where he started, however. So been a night, probably one to forget, but still fighting on to the very end, which is great to see.
Trent Thomas coming in for his second pit stop, Thomas. So I was thinking he was going to do well, the only example it was Schumacher at Silverstone, but that was a penalty, wasn't it? But also I think Vettel 2010 Monza, where he came into the pits for his 1 and 80 pit stop on the penultimate lap. Basically Thomas has done. I thought Thomas was going to do that, hasn't decided to. David Clement's very angry about the Irish driver Tim O'Glock, who apparently oathed Master Championship. I've just been told German. Absolutely not true. Tim O'Glock is clearly an Irish name, so I'm not having any of that. And of course, a deep hate to Ferrari when he deliberately slowed down. Absolutely inexcusable from Tim O'Glock. Really shocking that behaviour. Upputs has come into the pits as well from P4.
And we also saw Winkelmann in for his final stop of the night as well. Drops back to 3rd position. So he's going to be in a really good position as our 2 now race leaders, Edwards and Pink, still yet to come down for their final stop tonight as well. So it's playing out quite nicely for Winkelmann at this point in time, still with just over 20 minutes on the clock. But it's been a very good run for him so far.
No traffic for Winkelmann, really positive that, so should have the advantage. However, Edwards and Pink, of course, have got a few laps now, or they'll be hoping for a few laps. They've got some clean air, low fuel. They need to put in some phenomenal laps, but look at the traffic ahead of them. They cannot afford to get involved in that. So Silvati is one of the drivers in that. He's going to be 2 laps down, but they've also got Huggen, Vandenberg, Sellers, also Trent Thomas, all queuing up in front of them. There's Lee Vandenberg as well in that. So who got 2 laps until they catch, and then really from that point there's no point in trying to work their way through that track. It's going to leave them way too much time, considering that the majority of them are fighting one another.
We also need to keep an eye on Winkelmann because he's got quite a few cars ahead of him as well. As we see the guy driver down in 21st position, Rich Bales, slowing as well. But Winkelmann here, 2 cars in front of him, potentially going to hurt his advantage on track. You can see on the track map, our race leaders working their way through turn 8 and 9 at the moment. Winkelmann all the way back at turn number 5. So it's pretty touch and go here, and the longer he stays behind these 2 cars in front of him, the worse that's going to put his chance at taking another victory here. He's got the Porsche there, Richard Hunter for DPR Racing, and Martin Crisp, we were touching on just a little moment ago. they're going to want to maybe keep an eye as we see Hunter just step sideways and lets Winkleman through. So good move from him, good awareness.
Yeah, very good not to interfere with this lead battle. By the way, thanks for tuning in for this race. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Plenty of viewers, as we always get in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, being a superb round of the season. It's one of the enduros in the championship, and hopefully you've been enjoying the action from mid to high. Do please leave a like on this video if you've enjoyed it, and also do check out Apex Racing TV if you're not watching the Apex Racing TV stream. If you're watching on the Esports Network, subscribe to the Esports Network and subscribe to Apex Racing TV as well, because there's plenty more action just like this. Also check out our social media on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So Winkleman still got one more card to clear. Haven't got a... Actually, no, that was his first legit lap. So Winkleman with a 19.14. Edwards and Pink with a 19.0. So 1/10 of a second loss there for Winkleman. He should have enough. Only issue I see for Winkleman, potentially if Pink has saved a bit of fuel behind Edwards, then that could be good. But then Pink has kind of been, on the most part, about 7/10 of a second back. And you're not really going to get much of a tow advantage and much of a fuel saving advantage if you're that distance back. So it's not really that much point. Great times by these drivers. Edwards with an 18.9. That's only 1.5 of a second slower than his best lap of the race. So that the pace is very much there. I wonder if we can get the track temperature up, because I think it was over 30 degrees at the start of the race. It has got progressively cold. It's still 27. It hasn't actually decreased for the last half an hour or so. So the track's not getting a whole lot faster. Maybe a bit more rubbered in. But these guys absolutely nailing it at the moment, as they're just slowing to the inside of the circuit to let the race leaders past. That was Silvassi in the pink Porsche. Edwards actually pulling a gap on Pink. Pink needs to get as close as he can come the pit stop, so that if he does take a little bit less fuel at his pit stop, he can actually take advantage of it. From this distance back, he might still be behind Edwards even after the pit stops.
Yeah, and right now too is going to be really key for our cars of Edwards and Pink. Traffic management is going to be the name of the game. They've got about 4 or 5 cars just in front of them as they work their way through the carousel, and Edwards continues on, likewise Pink. So getting the most through this is going to be key if they want to try and extend any form of advantage. Winkleman has got a little bit of clear track as he runs up through the carousel. At the moment, he's just got to contend with Vaughan Ryder ahead of him next. So working his way through. We're also hearing, unfortunate for Kane Ryder, net issues for him, and what could have been a great run for him has unfortunately come to an end very early tonight for him.
That was actually about 20 laps to go, so apologies for missing Kane Ryder's absence. He was running in 4th place, wasn't he, earlier on? Yeah, retiring from this race, unfortunately, would be fantastic if he took the checkered flag at least, even though you might not be eligible for points. Josh Thomas now is into the pits. Trent Thomas already taking his 2 pit stops. Josh Thomas, oh wow, 3.5 seconds stationary. That was a quick pit stop, barely any fuel needed in that car. I think he pitted just so he could get out of traffic. He's come out in 7th place. He's still ahead of Pickering. Pickering, I think, has got to pit though yet, but he's behind Luthway by 14 seconds. So it's probably going to be quite a dull end to the race for Pickering, for Thomas. So Huppert's though has pitted twice. Huppert's, who had that really long first stop, 30 seconds, where he took tyres. I don't think that works for him. He started in 4th place at Huppert's. And yeah, came into the pits on the opening lap, took tyres, but that's kind of negated any advantage with the fresh tyres later on in the race. I don't know why Huppert's did that, which is strange because you feel like there's logic behind it. He's really good in these endurance races, is Huppert's. But the strategy for the Fusion Sim racing not working today.
Yeah, a little bit of a different strategy, and I mean, it's great, to see them try something a little bit out of the box, but I think for a race like this where the tyre management is key, especially in the enduros. Keep the tyres under the car, fight yourself into a really strong position later on. Maybe just a little bit of a missed opportunity for that team, unfortunately. Still a good solid result, up 5 spots from where he started. He's got his teammate in Warren Pickering just ahead. You can just see in the top of frame going after Josh Thomas still. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate for the way that one has unfortunately played out. Mitch Bales, similarly down 21 spots, or actually, sorry, down quite a few spots from where he started earlier on tonight. He's got Matthew Barron just up ahead for another one of the Fusion Sim Racing cars. And these guys probably not where they would have ideally liked to have been, but great to see him still firing on, and really loving the underglow of that Ford just ahead of us, and the way iRacing has set that up looks fantastic on these cars.
Really does. Carlos, by the way, has had an issue. I think he disconnected about halfway around the lap. He was 0.55 round the lap, and then just seemed to disappear. So shame for him. By the way, 90% race distance required. So I don't think if Carlos retires now, I don't think he'll quite make that. Oh dear, no. What was that about? That was very strange.
That's one for the record books there. Cullis firing straight off at the end of turn 4, not even having a crack at getting that one slowed up. So unfortunate for him there. That will be the end of his run tonight. Teammate Huggins continuing on down in that 14th spot right now. He's got Vandenberg just ahead, and a little bit of work still left to do for him.
Yeah, still hoping to gain some more places. So the race is, by the way, still not coming into the pit. Edwards 19.14, Pink 19.14. Winkelmann will approach the line. The gap's actually increased slightly between second and third recently. Gap's up to 17.5 seconds between the top 3. Winkelmann does a 19.30, so actually Winkelmann was 1 second faster than the race leaders on that last lap, so good job from him. We're on board with Sellers, Lee Vandenberg, who was one of the first drivers to come into the pits earlier on. He is right on the tail of Sellers, has got much fresher tyres as well, I believe has Vandenberg. He's another driver who this stretch he hasn't quite worked out for. Usually see him a bit further up the order. We're expecting to see him kind of maybe around Davison, Luthwaite range, Vandenberg. But, not quite happening for him. Of course, going to the end of the championship, we've only got 3 more rounds to go. 4 more rounds to go? 1, 2, 3, 4 more rounds to go after this. So we do want to be in a decent position when the championship ends. Of course, we've got 4 championships. We've got the elites, which are the purples. The greens are the pros. The ambers are, or the orange, are the avs. And then we've also got the reds, which are the rookies. However, because so many judges have been taking part in recent rounds, no rookies have been getting into top split. This is top split. There are other splits going on right now, which is pretty cool. Everyone earns points, of course, in each split, but of course this one rewards the most points. And yeah, no reds in this, no rookies in this split, just as we saw at Salterton as well. But I hope you'll see some more of them in the closing weeks. So of course, to get into the top split, you've got to set a really good qualifying time, which takes place in pre-qualifying, and then the fastest 33 drivers got into this top split today. So we really are some very talented drivers out on this circuit, very much the best of the best. Sellers defending well. Ron Pickering, by the way, is coming to the pits from 8th place. I wonder if he will come out similar range to those guys.
Yeah, we need to keep an eye on that because he's going to drop a handful of spots. I'd put him dropping back into about the 12th position, depending on the length of time. Stationary 11th just clicked past now as he gets underway, so not too bad there for him. He'll just have to keep an eye on that.
Close.
We've got Luke Pink in also, so drops out of 2nd position now. Craig Edwards still continuing on. Will Winkelmann have enough in the tank to get past Luke Pink while he drops into the lane? Winkelmann just coming across the line now, and I think he should comfortably regain that 2nd position.
Yeah, there goes Winkelmann. Then Pink back out onto circuit. The gap's quite big, you know. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than that. Longer stationary than I thought for Pink. 8 seconds. Thought it would be more like 4 or 5 seconds for him, and he is 6 seconds behind Anthony Winkelmann, who matched Craig Edwards on that last lap. So it looks as though This race is coming towards Anthony Winkleman. Edwards should be in very soon. I'm surprised Pink actually pitted before because Pink took more fuel than Edwards at the pit stop, at the first pit stop. And he was in the draft, at least for a bit, behind Edwards during that second stint. So I would have thought he'd have a couple of extra laps of fuel, but hasn't quite been the case. Edwards has pretty much maintained the gap to Winkleman ever since Winkleman's pit stop. Maybe he extended it by a second, but he needed to extend it by a few seconds. However, he is staying out, so he's giving himself the best opportunity right now, Edwards. He's going to keep it out for as long as possible. It's not going to have barely any fuel to put in the car. How much traffic does Winkleman have, I wonder, behind? You can see Edwards just dealing with some traffic before. It wasn't a great lap time. Look at that. Winkleman completely by himself. So Edwards does a 19.2. Winkleman does a 19.2 as well. So a little bit slower for both of them. Edwards, I think, with traffic. Winkleman just a little bit slower on that lap. Pink 6 seconds behind. But Edwards needs some 18s right now if he's going to be able to pull ahead. He's got the gap up to 17.1, you can see on the timing tower, but needs to be able to extend this stint by a few more laps if he's going to get the race win from this.
Yeah, definitely. A little further down the order, we've still got some solid battling continuing on. Harrison Sellers, Lee Vandenberg, and Warren Pickering getting involved. These three scrapping over the 11th position. And on cue, we see another rotation at that infamous turn 9 there. That was the car of Warren Pickering. I think he'll get back underway without dropping too many spots. They're actually dropped losers too in that instance, but yeah, almost right on cue. Just another one, unfortunately, there. Our race leader, Craig Edwards, is also in the lane for his final stop tonight. So how does this unfold for the charging Winkleman?
He's pretty much going to not be able to stop if he's going to hold onto this lead, Edwards. I think it's quite inevitable that Winkleman will take back the lead. He'd like to at least maintain second place, Edwards. He needs to be searching for less than 10 seconds for that to be the case. 6.63. Pink coming across the line. Edwards just about has enough to stay in second place. So he stay cleared of Pink. He took too much fuel at that pit stop. 1.5 seconds longer. He's 2 seconds behind. So not quite enough for Luke Pink. And now it is Winkleman. He leads by 4 seconds. That alternative strategy didn't have to get it done on track in the end. During the pit stops, it's worked very well for him. And he's just got 6 more minutes now to nurse that car home. Remember, Winkleman with pretty much the same age tyres as Edwards. Maybe Edwards got slightly fresher. Really, the only thing that could deny this race win now for Winkleman would be a mistake. He's got a comfortable lead out in the lead.
Yeah, he's continuing to extend a little bit more of a gap. So not much time left on the clock, just over 6 minutes here for these guys to get home. So about 4 more laps, but still plenty of opportunity here for something to potentially go wrong. And we don't wish it amongst him, but yeah, anything can happen while there's still time on the clock. Further down the order, still fighting going on. Sean Stephen, Martin Crisp scrapping over 15th position at the moment. These two had a pretty solid run, both drivers. We've seen Stevens had that drive through early on, has fought back through that, continues into 16th now, and potentially going to see him jump another position. Happets, who had his earliest stops, just ahead of these guys also. So some interesting strategies all come through to an end here. Martin Silvassi also on Pat Gallo down further in the order as well.
Adrian Block's having some issues further up the road. He recently had a collision, I believe, with Blake Delaney, I think, and lost a bit of time, has Block, from that. In fact, we might get a replay of how it happened, heading into turn 4, the right and then the left. Oh dear, that was a bit clumsy. I think that was Delaney and Block skating off the circuit. Almost tricky to find your way back on with the low lights we now have. Or yeah, Edwards. I think Edwards has had an issue. Edwards has dropped down to 3rd place. Deary me, Luke Pink is up into the 2nd, And is it going to be the same mistake we have seen time and time again? It would only be right for Edwards, of all people. Well, in fact, he's dipped a wheel onto the grass, so he really can't complain about that one, and skates off into the wall. Craig Edwards giving away second place right at the close. Luke Pink moves up into second, and that was odd from Edwards. I mean, you can appreciate that he was pushing hard, but oh dear, just opening up that string too early, and off the circuit he went.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate position there for him to be in. Lucky not to have a big impact with the wall. Obviously does get a little bit of damage on that rear wing, but it was only the slightest of off track there with the tyres just catching that grass that ultimately rotated him. So only one little blemish on what has been a very faultless run for him so far. He's going to comfortably maintain that third position. However, it looks like he's got himself quite a good gap over Braden Nash behind. So not too much issue there, but we'll keep an eye on that. Sean Stevens, we're going to check out the replay here, has actually been able to get past Martin Crisp. Similar spot, both running down into turn 4. Although actually Crisp gets out of that one quite early on, shows the brake and slots in behind Stevens there. So pretty easy move for Sean.
17 seconds now for Stevens to catch up to the next car, so that'll be pretty much the end of his day, I imagine. Going to be a little bit of a dull finish to the event for him. Sellers still battling with Vandenberg. This battle's been going on for ages. Vandenberg with fresher tyres, I believe. Yeah, fresher tyres. Pitted on lap 36 and took tyres at that pit stop. Meanwhile, Sellers with a much earlier pitted most recently on lap 49, but he didn't take tyres at his last pit stop. So they might be quite similar to each other. And we've seen degradation not too bad. It's not usually too bad in the GT cars anyway, even though it's a bit more substantial with the new tyre model. 2 minutes to go then. Winkleman is behind these Joes, so they're pretty much going to be some of the last Joes who actually cross the line in that battle for 11th and 12th. So fingers crossed that they got enough fuel, because it might be one extra lap than perhaps they expected. And yes, Stevens will apologies. Yeah, Winkleman won't quite catch them by the end of this. 5.8 seconds now between the two leaders. They crosses the line with 1 minute 35 to go. So that's all quite simple for us to work out. So that means 2 more laps for the race leader to complete until he will take his third race victory in 4 meetings.
Yeah, it's been really, really solid run. Further down, battle still continuing on. William Mitchell, who we haven't really mentioned much at all tonight, had a very, very quiet run for Pulse Racing Team, closing up on the back of Mitchell Bales. He's got Matthew Barron just ahead as well. So still in with a good fight, which is great to see, and potential for a couple of positions. We're at the very, very end of this race. He runs up through to the keyhole. Might actually be on for a move here now. Goes very defensive for Bales. Does he have the legs around the outside? Not quite at this point, but will set himself up nicely for the crisscross, and with a good solid run into 4, potentially going to get this move done nice and early.
Yeah, this all looks quite simple on Bales. The pro driver moves past the amateur driver into the right-hander. Yeah, that was a nice job there from the Pulse Racing Team guy. He's 1 second behind Barron. That is very possible. What was Barron's last lap time? In 19.7. Mitchell at 19.8, although perhaps was stuck behind Bales. Pace really good for these guys, actually. That's only about half a second off what the leaders are doing. So they've got good competitiveness right at the end of this event, even though they are about a lap and a half down on the race leaders. Apparently the Ferrari not very good with tyre. I'm not sure how that is, but trust Ross Rizzo to deliver us useful information. So yeah, maybe just these Ferrari just struggling towards the end of the event. We are on the last lap, and Anthony Winkleman with that strategy. I mean, it's off the circuit is Martin Stelvasi. Dearie me, gonna go off into what's a neighbouring state to this? Illinois, maybe? Yeah, Illinois. We can say that. Going off into Illinois, seemingly right there is Stelvasi. But meanwhile, Anthony Winkleman, he was Starting in second place behind Craig Edwards. Dropped back to third actually on the opening lap. Got back into second. He's looked the fastest driver all day long. A very nice strategy. Got him track position. Looks as though it's going to get him the win. Lap 68. At the end of the 90 minutes, it is Anthony Winkelmann who takes the win at Mid-Air High. Round 8 of Season 11 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship goes to him. Luke Pink finishes in second place. Very good job from the amateur. And Edwards, after a late mistake, third place. No mean feat, but was just outdone on pace in the end by Winkelmann today. He was too quick. Further back, Clean Boosting has caught up to Huppert's right at the end of the race. Has Huppert's got some fuel issues or something? Did a 19.8 that last time, which wasn't too bad. Clean Boosting with a 19.3. He's closing up on him. However, there's pretty much no way of passing through these final few corners. It's all fast sweepers, very narrow part of the circuit. So the only hope is for some spluttering from Huppert to cross the line, but the BMW seems to have it covered, and he will finish in 8th place, clean boosting after an early drive through, finishes in 9th. Lee Vandenberg isn't going to get past Sellers as well. Sellers with some great defense in these closing stages. Overtaking was very possible around the circuit today, but Vandenberg didn't make it possible. He finishes in 12th, and Sellers in 11th. The rest of the drivers will cross the line as well. Pickering falls behind Huggan at the finish with that late spin. Last driver on the lead lap. So I mean, what can you say about Anthony Winkelmann? Like I said before, it wasn't completely way faster, and I think if he hadn't have gone for that mega short first stop, I'm not sure if it would have worked out for him, but that was the perfect pace with the perfect strategy, and he just about managed to edge out Pink and Edwards. But it was a great battle between the two of them.
Yeah, it was a really solid battle all night long, and he judged the traffic very well, used the consistency of the car to his advantage, and I think, as you say, that the difference in the pit stop was ultimately what got him there. I mean, that being said, he really stepped up after the few little mistakes that he noted on last week out at Silverstone, made amends for that, and to go 3 wins in 4 races, a very, very respectable effort from him.
So everyone, I think he's crossed the line. You can see how dark it is now. It's 9 o'clock in the evening. It started off in day. I thought it was like 3 in the afternoon, to be honest, when it was 8. So it was very bright, and then by the end, very dark. Anthony Winkelmann wins by 5 seconds over Luke Pink. Craig Edwards, late spin, pole sits at finishes in 3rd place. Not bad though, with the Fusion Sim Racing Joe. That's going to certainly help his championship charge. Braden Nash finishes in 4th. Bit of a quiet 4th. He just about beat Danny Davison and Aidan Luthwaite. They're all quite quick. I mean, within half a minute, all those guys off the race winner. So it was a very close field today. Josh Thomas finished in 7th place ahead of Nathan Hupperts, who went for that mega early pit stop. Hupperts actually was closing in, I think, in the close stages. Really should have been in that battle for at least P4, but I think that pit stop, don't think it works, taking tyres on the opening lap. Julian Clean Boosting was in 9th, Trent Thomas was in 10th. There's Harrison Sellers, Lee Vandenberg, Tom Huggan, Warren Pickering, Sean Stevens, Martin Crisp, and Richard Hunter. Then it was Luke Sutton, Darren Lobb, Matthew Barron, William Mitchell, Mitchell Bales, Adam Gardner, Blake Delaney, Adrian Block, Pat Gallo, Martin Silvassi, and Vaughan Ryder. Drivers who didn't take the checker flag, Jordan Cullis, who had a high-speed crash. He broke his neck, to be honest, with the way he went into the wall at about 180 miles an hour. Crane Ryder lost connection. Aaron Specchio also retired, so too did Timothy Phoeben and Billy Fletcher to round out that 33 car field. But great driving from the drivers on the most part. We will get some interviews with drivers now, and the first man we're going to have a chat with is obviously our race winner, Anthony Winkelmann. Congratulations, Anthony. First question, that strategy. That first pit stop, what was the thinking when it came to that? Were you going to do that all along, or was that a reaction to what was going on in front of you? Because that turned out to be a genius move.
Yeah, it was never a plan, never had a planned strategy as such. had to play it as I saw it as the race went on. I didn't think there was too much sense in jumping in early with the lap traffic and everything like that. So it was pretty much around the halfway point. I decided that the track's only going to get cooler and it's only going to get faster. So for me to take tyres at that point and not fuel was the right move, I think, in the way that I managed to be able to get into a fairly decent gap and just really do some qualifying laps.
Yeah, how hard were you pushing from that first stop onwards? Because your pace seemed to be ever so consistent. I mean, were you feeling the pressure at all, or yeah, how did you feel in the car?
Yeah, I felt really good. Like I done no practice this week. I've been quite ill. I didn't even know if I was going to race tonight, but the pace seemed good. At the start, I felt as if I did have the pace advantage to both Craig and Luke. But yeah, it was a tough call. I had to get away from him basically to see how my own race was going to run. Because it was mucking up with my fuel numbers and everything. So the quicker I could get into my own race, the better it was for me.
We go to another unique circuit next time, right? Sonoma, the long course for that one. You got much experience around that track?
Yeah, raced there a couple of times now. It's a good track. It's a bit of a goat track, but always brings out some good racing. There's a lot of good spots for passing and stuff like that. But yeah, I've really enjoyed. I've never done this sort of compulsory stop endurance setup, so I really enjoyed that. I think it's a great way to run a league.
Absolutely. No, it was an awesome performance from you today. Anthony, congratulations on the win. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we say goodbye?
Just the boys at Trick Esports, and then we've got Momo Australia and Fuel Autotech. And thanks to you guys for the commentary and the broadcast, and also to the boys from AMF.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Anthony, and best of luck for next week.
Very much, man.
So that was Anthony Winkelman, your race winner, Trick Esports, right there. And who are we going to have a chat with next, Daniel? Do we have a chat with anyone? Oh yeah, we do.
Well,
awesome.
we do. We got Luke Pink comes home in second place tonight. Luke, a fantastic run for yourself out there tonight. We thought early on you were setting yourself up for a good run, and ultimately there's a little bit of issue for Craig Edwards, but come home with a really solid second place. How was it?
Yeah, no, it was good. After the good start, I was like, oh, come on. And then obviously trying to push Craig ahead. But Anthony obviously got us in the pits there.
Well, yeah, tell us a bit about that, because it looked like both yourself and Edwards running very similar strategy early on. You both came in on the same lap. Was your intent to potentially just cover off Edwards, or were you had that in mind the whole way?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I was kind of just, because obviously I didn't know what to do. I was kind of just following what they did and then try and work around that, I guess.
And then in the back half of the race, obviously the car looked very good. Did you have much issue getting or working your way back through the traffic prior to that second stop?
Not too much. I guess me and Edwards are just pushing on. We're trying to obviously overcut Anthony, but yeah, it's still good. And then feel bad for Edwards there on that fast right-hander. The rear's always really loose there.
Well, yeah, we did notice quite a few cars going off, and Edwards probably one of the unfortunate ones right at the very end there to find contact with the wall. From your point of view, with the way the car was flowing through that corner, did you have any issues with the back end getting loose at all, or just manageable just with enough throttle control?
Yeah, when I first got the track, I kept spinning off there every single lap. And at the end of that race, I was kind of trying to roll through it, because as soon as you go on there a bit too deep, you just can't catch it. The rear just like steps out, and then once it's gone, you're in the wall.
Yeah, definitely. And then going on next week, we switch gears again off from Mid-Ohio 90 minutes. We go to Sonoma for a 90-minute enduro. Is it a track you've driven much at all? And do you think there's anything you've learnt from tonight that you can potentially input into that next week?
No, I've never been there. all of these tracks for me are just a learning curve, I guess, because I haven't been to any of them so far. But no, I'll have to get Sonoma during the week and have a fang.
Absolutely, mate. Well, it's a fantastic result for yourself again tonight, second position. Before we let you go, was there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to for helping you through?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Knight Rider Designs for obviously the awesome designs on our cars. RMS for the race management service. It goes really well with our iRacing. And Luxus Greats for sponsoring me with everything. And just all of you guys for putting on the great.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations on second place tonight. Hopefully, we'll look forward to seeing you out on track again for the next 90-minute enduro at Sonoma. But yeah, for tonight, fantastic result and congratulations.
Thanks, boys.
Luke Pink there having a chat with us, our second place driver. Fortunately, we haven't got any more interviews with drivers, so I'll pretty much be the end of our coverage. But next week, Daniel, we go to Snow. We had a little bit of a chat about that already. It's not a circuit that we visit that much. I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've done a commentary around there, and I've been doing commentary for about 3 years. But it's not a circuit that we visit that much. I think it's quite a good circuit though. I mean, you've got a nice flow to it, especially with the layout that we're using, the long layout, where you've got that S's section near the end of the lap. Then you've also got that really tight hairpin as well to finish off the lap. A lot of elevation change. I'm looking forward to that one as well. It should be good fun and an interesting setting as well in the desert.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a circuit's going to provide a lot of unique challenges for these guys. Obviously, we've started getting some more challenges from tonight with the midsection through Mid-Ohio here. It's only going to be even more exaggerated next week out at Sonoma. Obviously, the run up through turn 2 there, very, very sharp. So a lot of blind corners that these guys are going to have to work around. Getting the cars working nicely over the curves is going to be critical as well, because you can gain a lot of time advantage if you can get that right there also. So a lot of the guys are going to need to put in a lot of practice for this one. It's going to be really good to see another 90-minute, which will be the final endurance round for this championship, and a little sad not to see another one afterwards, but thoroughly enjoyed it tonight. And I mean, tonight we saw some fantastic racing. Unfortunately, we saw quite a few little issues in that same section of the course through turn 9, but you know, a lot of drivers getting on top of that. We saw some fantastic battling all the way through, some really tight runs at the back end, and yeah, hats off to our top 3 who played it very, very nicely to come home. Again, win for Winkelmann, Luke Pink doing a stellar job getting that second position, and unfortunate for Craig, what could have been potential second there has that little bit of a lose through 9 also, and fortunate enough that had enough of an advantage that he could still bring it home in that third position. But yeah, stellar job tonight.
Absolutely. So yeah, fantastic job from the drivers. Was a fantastic meeting as always in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. Hopefully you've enjoyed it watching wherever you are. Hopefully from your homes. But hopefully no, you've enjoyed the coverage that we brought to you today. If you have, please do leave a like on it. We'd leave a like on the video. We'd certainly appreciate that. Also subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network and just watch the Apex Racing TV broadcast. Don't watch any of the others. Just watch the Apex Racing TV ones. Because we've got tomorrow World GT. I'll be back. That'll be my sultry tones as well, taking you through that one along with the Yorkshireman Andrew Woodhouse as well, bringing you the coverage in that championship. And then we've also got on Thursday. Oh no, not on Thursday. AOLTC is on a break. Apologies. AOSC though is on next Friday. That'll be in the evening for you Australians, and then in the morning for or midday for Europeans. And then of course you'll be back with us next week as well, next Sunday, same time, at Sonoma for round 9 of the season 11 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT series. We're coming to the end of the championship. We're gonna reign a new title winner, 4 new title winners pretty soon. So certainly you do not want to miss the developments coming up in a bit. So for now, from me, from Daniel, and from Scott, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you next time.